Hey patrons, welcome to August's release party. Glad to be here with you guys tonight. If you're on, drop a comment so I can see who it is that is out there. I'm super excited to share this month's song with you guys, Eye on the Storm. And not Eye of the Storm, I Am the Storm. And talk a little bit about that. But first, a couple things. I just want to thank you for joining in. I know this is kind of a crazy week. For those of you with young kids, it's back to school. Our little guy, Falcon, has his first day of school tomorrow. So I had a little emotional moment a couple weeks ago when I was reading the paperwork and envisioning like Ren and I walking him out the door and down the street to the corner, and then there's that moment where I'm going to give him a hug and he's going to walk on that bus, and it's like, you know, something's gained and something's lost in that. So just, man, the feels. I'm feeling them again. So thank you for those of you who joined in. I know there's a lot going on this week. Also, I have one announcement for you before we jump into the song. Oh, we got a Joe Giac. Woohoo! Dude, so glad you guys were able to join in. Did you get the kids to bed early, or are they kind of hanging out? Oh, and you got a few friends over too. That's sweet. Really, really glad you guys are able to join in. That's cool, man. All right, so announcement, and I'll bring up my little visual aid here. All right, so I've announced this once before, I think on the last live stream concert. I'll be making a formal post on the Patreon site next week, and you'll start seeing notifications on Facebook, Instagram, things like that, as I start to publicly promote this show. But October 5th, at Route 33 Rhythm and Brews in Wapakoneta, Ohio. That's about an hour west for those of you in Columbus, and less than that, about 45 minutes for those of you in Delaware. Sorry, got distracted. A bunch of comments just came in. So look, tickets are $10 in advance, $15 day of. I don't know if this show will sell out. They have like 100 seat capacity-ish. But some of you have been to shows when I used to play there with the band, and I did a solo show right after the band ended here. It's just a great venue. It's family run. The son runs the sound, dad does the door, mom runs the kitchen. They're just great people. The space is awesome. It's an old roadhouse. It was built in the 40s right after the Second World War, and still kind of looks like that. But they get great acts through there. And it's set up in kind of tiered seating, so there's not a bad seat in the house. Every seat sounds good. You can sit and have dinner, have some drinks while we do the show, and it'll be just a fantastic night for me and you to interact. We can be in the same room as each other. I'll be sharing a bunch of stuff that I'm working on. I've got another surprise that I'll be releasing that night at the show. So this is like the only public club show I'm doing all year. And it's going to be here October 5th in Wapakoneta. So you can go to rhythmandbrews.com. I'll type that rhythmandbrews.com. You can go right to their website. Again, I'm going to make a formal post next week. I'll be giving a couple tickets away, a couple sets of tickets away, I should say, to patrons. So you're going to hear me talk more about this. So if you want to go, please mark your calendars. It'll be a great night. I'm super looking forward to it, and I hope to have a bunch of you there. So, all right. We'll get rid of that. All right. So we've got the Grubers on, Michelle Pierce. Yes. I'm so excited to share the song with you guys. Okay, so Joe said, nope, definitely will run after kids and not be responsive. You do that. I'll do this. And, if you miss something, you can always go back and watch it later. So, all right. Here we go, guys. I need to get like a little drum roll sample for this part. But here we go. This month's song, I Am the Storm. Let's take a listen, and then we'll talk. There is a voice that thunders to my soul's foundations. It threatens all that I have ever hoped and loved. It's like a hurricane of violent accusation, but I don't listen anymore, 'cause I am the storm. There is a peace that's not concerned with understanding. It lets me rest even when ruin's at my door. The lies are pounding, demanding my attention, but I don't listen anymore, 'cause I am the storm. I am the hammer on the chains of the oppressor. I am the vagabond of the fortress of this world. I am the medic to rebellion, hopeless prisoners, all crying out for more, 'cause I am the storm. There is a peace that is not anchored by my wisdom, calls me to rest even when I'm cold and wet. I'm taking water waves, demanding my attention, but I don't hear them anymore, 'cause I am the storm. I am the axe laid to the root of all deception. I am the fire in the forge that God most high. I am the pedal on the lily of the valley, and I'm not hiding anymore. I've heard the trumpet call the war, and I am the storm. Lay my head on my daddy's chest. Rest, oh, rest. Lay my head on my daddy's chest. 'Cause when he grabs his armor and climbs on heaven's horse, we won't be left standing at the door. Oh, we're not children anymore. We've learned the truth about this war. We are God's human being. Oh, and we are the storm. I So good. So, I have a specific question before I jump into stuff for Tony Gruber, because he's one of the few people who heard this song live in person. I played it one night for my small group. I'm curious how you think, like, what do you think of hearing the song fully produced versus like what you heard that first night? All right. So we got our first comment here. Oh, from our newest patron, Jordan. Dude, thanks, man. Thanks for joining. Says, love it, man. So good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. This song was challenging in a ton of ways, and also really exciting to work on. So I wrote this song, it was just over a year ago. Actually, when I looked up to take a photograph of the journal lyrics, it was July 28th of 2018. And man, it's just crazy how reading my journal entry, like the actual handwritten lyrics, like as I was writing it just takes me right back into that space when I was writing. And I remember like feeling it and seeing it and like hearing the song and also the message of it. And like it didn't seem outlandish or presumptuous or even honestly that bold at the time. It was just like, oh yeah, this is the song and this is true. And then, I moved on, was working on some other stuff. I kind of, I guess, forgot about the song, and came back to it this past spring. And in coming back to it and playing it, I felt all of those things like, wow, this song is really bold and feels kind of presumptuous, especially when I look at, like none of our lives are linear, right? Like they look more like a stock market ticker, right? Like they kind of, you have ups and downs, right? And so the lyrics of this song now, it's like as I sing it and listen to it, it's like half, yeah, like I see it and I believe it, and there's half that's like I want I want to believe that all of those things are true. And so it's like one of those songs that really challenges even me. It's not like I wrote it out of a place of like, yep, own that, settled, like done deal. At times, yeah. But every day across the board, I listen to this song to be encouraged and to be challenged. I love the center section, and it's funny because I always forget that it's in the song when I listen to it. The part where it breaks down, and it's just rest. And to me, I guess as I've lived with this song for over a year, like that part of the song, it feels kind of like a little bit of a right turn musically, but I think is indispensable to the song. Because as I've thought about it, like storms, a storm, like a geographical storm, a physical storm, right, isn't just like a bunch of weather like, hey, we're just going to go, tear some things up, right? Like that's not how storms are formed. Storms are formed when one front of a certain type of weather comes into contact with another front of a certain type of weather. And so it's actually a clash of storm fronts, a clash of weather fronts that creates a storm. And so that, I guess that's what I've been realizing is like in owning these lyrics, it's not like I am the storm. I'm going to choose to be the storm and be strong and push through and knock things down. It's more of like I am resting and I am with God. And as we go, right, as he moves, as Jesus talked about those that are moved by the Spirit, right? Like we're blown like the wind. We don't know where it's coming or where it's going, right? It's not in our control. So we get blown, and we get blown into opposing weather fronts and a storm. So I feel like that rest piece in there is like the linchpin, is like the center of the hub of the wheel. Like everything else hinges around that. So we'll talk more. We got a couple comments here. So Tony says, good song. The title gives away the power of the chorus. Could the title be The Storm? Good thought. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'll think about that before I respond. And Michelle said, love this so much. Closed my eyes as I was listening, and it just took me through everything I faced and overcome the past 9 months. Probably not my favorite. Yes. Yeah, I knew you would love this song. I'm so glad you could join in to get it live. And I know that this will be one that you will play over and over again. Yeah, I love the thing that I find so hopeful in this song and encouraging, and it is bold, because so many of the messages of society, of even the church, honestly, are messages of defense. The underlying messages are really like, we're kind of helpless. We might even be victims. We just kind of have to roll with the punches, and spend all your time trying not to do this, trying not to do that, protect yourself from this, make sure this is safe, get insurance for that, right? Get this person who's going to ruin things out of office. Like, just all of the messages are all about like defense. And I feel like there's some really strong truth in this song that we're not meant to live. We weren't created to live on defense. We were meant and created to be offensive. We were given this world as humanity. It was given to us and placed under our authority. So there is an ownership that when we realize who we are and who we were made to be and who we are in relationship to God, that there is immense power in that. And so, if anything, this song doesn't quite get all the way there. But it's, because of all of those messages, right? We live in a world where you can say just about anything as long as you don't really mean it, right? If you're just, spewing hyperbole, people get that. You can say things ironically. You can just kind of screw around and joke. You can say something, but it has to be couched in a sort of like ironic or I'm just blowing off steam or something. We don't really like it when people say something and then stand behind it and mean it and stick to it. And that's one of the things that I love about this song, is that it doesn't really mince words. It's like, no, this is who I am, and this is what I was created to be. And I don't mean it ironically. I don't mean it sarcastically. I don't mean it hyperbolically. I guess that would be the adverb form of hyperbole. Anyway, some English major, you could correct me there. So yeah, I love the directness of this song, and it doesn't make any apologies for what it says, Let's see. So Tony said, at initial hearing, I was struck by the power of the words of the chorus. So I'm curious which section you consider the chorus, actually, because it kind of feels like it starts out on a chorus, right? Like the there is a voice that thunders to my soul's found. I mean, that feels a little more sing-songy, and it's also in the like straight time as opposed to the halftime. I guess the B section, which is, I am the hammer on the chains of the oppressors, which again is just another interesting, from an arrangement standpoint, this song, like, it's not, it just kind of does, the song does what it wants. It's not like first chorus, first bridge, ba-doop, 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 bam, 3.5 minutes and we're out. Like, the song itself is kind of a journey, which was really challenging from a production standpoint, because it wasn't like recording and producing one song. It was actually like recording and producing 3 songs. Because there was the intro part that was like just naked vocals and like banjo, some hand claps, and then there's like the straight time part, and then there's the halftime part, and then there's the total break part, and then there's the build up part with the snare drum. So yeah, it was just, and then there's like an actual C section in the bridge, I guess you'd call it. The no weaponry can be designed to kill us. Like that's a whole other feel, right? And that needed different things. So working through the song was like, oh my gosh, I was just like section by section. But when it all came together, I just love how it all works together, and how the song itself feels like it takes you on a journey. Which is, not every song needs to be that way. Some songs are cool. It's just like, this is, we're talking about this thing right here. But this song feels like it kind of starts here and progresses you as a listener toward a place. Let's see. So Tony said, powerful song in so many ways, inspirational. Yeah. I remember that first night, and I shared it with, like I said, just a few friends at our small group. And it was, I don't think anybody had ever heard that song before. I don't think I'd ever played it. Maybe not for anybody other than myself and maybe Melissa. But I played it that night, and we were just all like, you could tell there was like a shift, not just in the room, but like in each of us, like as we just embraced that song. And I guess I identified with it. There's a difference between hearing a song and liking it, and hearing a song and identifying with it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure each one of us has at least one song we can remember where we heard it and we were like, oh yeah, like you're saying something that I've always wanted to say but could never find the words to, or man, that song is like completely me, or completely my life, or completely where I am right now, right? Like there's a way we identify with songs. And I think that's actually when we find the ability to do that with music, I think we're actually engaging with it at an artistic level beyond just entertainment or just listening to music, which for those of you who've been part of the Patreon community for a while now, you've heard me go on and on the difference between art and entertainment. But I think that's an important distinction, because I think it's just helpful to know like when we're actually engaging in that sort of co-creative way that art requires, and then the inspiration that it gives us, right? Like how important is that song once you've identified with it, right? You listen to it over and over again, and you turn it back on at different times when you need to hear it or hear things, or when you're celebrating, or like that song has meaning now, whereas before it was just a song, right? It was just a beat with some music, and maybe it made you feel good, maybe you enjoyed it. But when we identify with the song, it then begins to have meaning for our lives, and it speaks in such a much deeper way. So, cool. You guys have any other? We have a few minutes left. You guys have any other questions or comments about this month's song? I'll pause for a moment and take a drink. We've got about a 15 to 20 second broadcast delay. I do want to talk about the cover art, though. There's so many things that I could say. It was a really, man, I don't even know what the word is. Like, it was fun and challenging and difficult, and at times frustrating. It was a collaboration. So I like had a super vague idea of what I wanted this cover art to look like. Super vague. And I was already doing a photo shoot for last month's song, Spit and Love, with Matthew Dyer, who's just a fantastic photographer, like amazing portrait photographer. And totally an artist in his own right. And so my thought was, hey, I'll just kind of like, there's a word called poe. It's poeing, where you're like not really like intending to go anywhere. You're just like putting ideas in a direction. So I was just like, hey, like what do you think of this? And he was like, oh yeah, like I think I can see that. And I was like, that's cool, because I can't see it in my mind, but I have this idea and I'd love to be able to see it. So if you can help me with that. So we did the photo shoot, like the profile shot of the head looking up, and the right light and all that, right after we did the spit and love shoot. So at the same session. And then I had like kind of looked through a bunch of storm photos, and the trick with trying to find photography of storms is you're either going to get like an above view, or you're going to get like a below view that's kind of obscured, or you're just going to get like clouds, which doesn't really portray movement. And I really wanted movement in the picture. I also didn't want like a tornado or something like that. Like that felt to me like kind of too heavy-handed with the picture. I wanted it to be like clouds-ish, but moving, and it ends up like trying to find a photo where all those things is like actually fairly difficult. So I found some photos, sent those to Matthew, and this whole time still like I can't really see the image in my mind. And so it comes down to like literally last week. And Matthew was like, hey man, here's a couple mock-ups, like what do you think? And I like looked at them, and on one hand, like I didn't really like the direction he had taken the idea, but he had like solved enough of the artistic presentation, the problem of taking these ideas and putting them into a visual form, that then I could see what the image needed to be. Also at the same time, I'm realizing like I have maybe 3 hours to actually do this, and then like schedule the posts and everything so that it all goes out in time and you guys get the notifications for this with an image, all of that sort of stuff. And so I sit down and I'm just like, and this is something that actually Jesus and I have been doing a lot when I create, is I'll just sit down and like ask him, like, what do you hear? What do you see? Like, and I'm realizing, pardon me for being so, I guess, dumb all these previous years, but I'm realizing like he's super brilliant, like way more creative and way more brilliant than I am. And so at times it almost feels like cheating, because it's like, I need an awesome idea. Like, Jesus, what do you see? What do you got? And so he's like training me, and it's fun. We get to do this together. So I sit down and I realize like, okay, like I can kind of see where this image needs to go. And I sit down and I'm like, Jesus, I need a brilliant idea. And he's been training me in this discipline too and we've been doing this with recording. I don't sit down and offer to the piece what I can do. So I don't sit down and just, okay, what can I play? Oh, what instruments do I have? Like, what sounds can I put on this? I sit down and I listen first. And I just listen for as long as it takes to hear what I hear that the song needs. And so for this, it was, what do I see? What do I see the image looking like? And once I saw the image, it was just like, then my hands just went and did it, and it actually went super smooth and really uncomplicated and turned out amazing. So there's the whole story. There's some little creative nuggets in there for my fellow artists. We got a comment here from Jordan. I really appreciated when the lyric changed from I am the storm to we are the storm. Made the whole song immediately shift for me in a really good way. Sweet. Yes. I agree. I got nothing else to say to that other than, yep, I agree. All right. Well, if there are no other comments or questions, I've loved spending tonight with you guys. I'm going to let you have the rest of your evening. We'll see you in a couple weeks for September's live stream concert. We got another one. How did you settle on the genre musical style for this song? There's so many options. Totally agree. It's interesting. So again, in the creative process, when I'm thinking through which songs I'm going to record in the future, there's a lot of pieces that go into that, right? There's, does this song fit with that time of year? Like, that's something I think about. And like, how complicated do I hear the production of this song being? And when I heard this song, so there are times when I will just hear the production and it doesn't sound really like anything else that I've heard or another song that I've heard. There are those times. And then there are times where I'll kind of hear the song with a guide of another song that's already been produced. So this song in particular, I had heard the beat of the song having the same sort of train beat that a song by Need to Breathe called The Outsiders. It was a title track from an album of theirs from, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. It has just this great train beat that kind of keeps the song going. And if you go back and listen to it, you'll hear some similarities. There's a ton of differences too. It also has like a strummed banjo thing at the top, and it also starts like a vocal driven sort of thing. And Need to Breathe's style is, some of the songs I produce, people have compared it to them. So it's not like way out of the ballpark. But that train beat was like, I really hear that on this song. And it's also helpful because a train beat, so if you don't know what a train beat is, it's when you ride the snare like ticka-taka, 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 ticka-taka. So you're kind of doing the subdivisions that you'd normally have on a hi-hat, say, but you're doing all of those on a drum. And it's called a train beat because it kind of sounds like a train going down the tracks, right? And every drummer has like their own little nuance that they do with train beats. But the cool thing about train beats is you can switch from straight time to half time by just changing how many kicks you play underneath that train beat. So I wanted that for the song because of how many times it switches back and forth. I didn't want it to feel like, okay, now we're going, and now we're pulling back, and now we're going. Like, the fact that it has a train beat as sort of the bedrock of the song, I think really helps the ear transition from those straight time to halftime parts. And it also, when you're doing the train beat, you can control a lot of the movement by how frequently you're playing the bass. So if you go back and listen, you'll hear on the verses, like, I'm playing like one note a measure on the verses. So I'm just like really letting that ring, which is giving this, even though the drums are giving this this time signature of like, okay, we're straight. The bass is saying no, and the kick is also playing with that idea too. So then when you switch into a halftime, that's an actual beat of then it doesn't feel like you've lost a ton of momentum with the song. So I don't know if that helps you understand the thought process, but that was mine. So good question, Tony. I love it. All right. Well, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. I'll post the link and ticket information for October 5th's show at Route 33, Rhythm and Blues. That'll be coming next week. So yeah. Oh, Tony said, I caught the changes and the tension at times. Very good. I figured you would, man. I love the way you listen to music. So, all right. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.